welcome to the Peter Principles. In this episode of 10 Questions with the Musical Mind, we're joined by Melia Maccarone. Melia is the winner of multiple Indie Music Channel awards, including Best Female Rock Artist and Best Rock Song. In this interview, we talk about her songwriting process, her experiences as a guitar teacher, and how she got started as a player. Hi, Melia. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, I'm very happy to have finally gotten this scheduled. I'm really happy to do it.
Yeah, been staying busy lately, I see.
I've been pretty busy, but it's all good. All good stuff.
Good. And I think you got a chance. I sent you the questions beforehand, and basically the creative process and how you do your craft and how you approach everything. So let's just start from the beginning. Question number one: when was the Battle of Hastings? I'm just kidding.
I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah, no, just kidding. So inspiration for your songs, that usually come to you when you're jamming with others, like members of your band, or when you're alone just playing?
It's almost always alone.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually come up with the idea. I usually come up with something. There's always something in my head, but it's always like the whole picture.
Mm-hmm.
Almost always like I hear the drums, just like as a band. So, I mean, I write it acoustically, but I usually have everything in my head. So it depends too, like on how I start it. Usually, sometimes I can hear like a guitar riff in my head,
mm-hmm.
or I'll just be jamming on my own and come up with one, but it's usually alone.
Gotcha. When you're writing that stuff, I know you can't always help whatever pops in your head, but you sit down and consciously think like, okay, I've written this many songs, I need a slower piece, or I need an up-tempo piece here, or are you kind of just subject to whatever comes out? I
just go with whatever comes out because I think that's the way it's most authentic. I could, if I wanted to, and I've explored that, but I think in the end, usually the ones that I end up picking, because I'll write like 50 songs and then pick 4 or 5 of them out of 50.
Right.
So usually when it comes down to choosing them, I end up going with the ones that were more authentic anyhow.
Sure.
But it is nice. It is nice to kind of have that control if I can do it. But usually I like to be more like spur of the moment kind of writing.
Right, and that way it's not as contrived feeling to you anyway, or like it didn't feel that way it doesn't come across to you anyway sounding contrived, like, oh, I forced this out. And...
Yeah. Usually that's how I've always written. So I think when I do force it or not force it, but I have a plan, I can go with it and I can do it. I just it doesn't feel as connected to me.
Sure.
Like sometimes it feels like it's for someone else. I don't know. Sometimes that happens too.
Right. And if it's not connected to you, kind of what's the point to begin with?
Yeah.
And you've covered this a little bit. Do your songs usually evolve? Like, is the inspiration point usually an idea on guitar, like a riff or a chord progression, or do you come up with an idea for lyrics first, or a certain mood, or?
It's so many different ways, because a lot of times if I come up or I hear something, I usually absorb things around me. So if I think of a phrase or I hear someone say something and I'm like, oh, that'd be a good like title or hook or whatever, I'll write it down.
Uh-huh.
And then just kind of keep it. And then if there's a song, I usually have a melody first, and then I have all these lyrics that I kind of just jot down throughout the week or whatever. And but sometimes it comes out all at once. It's interesting because sometimes when I write, it's kind of just automatic, like whatever words I write. Like sometimes I don't even realize what I'm writing about until after the fact. Like it kind of just works itself out naturally.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it's kind of that way where there's the melody and then I've got all these lyrics that I could put to it. But some of my first songs were more about the lyrics first. The first song I ever wrote was with lyrics first. And I kind of wrote around the mood of it. But.
Yeah. Okay. And you're a guitar teacher.
Mm-hmm.
You give instructions when you're instructing students, do you find yourself learning from them as well? Like if even they approach something weird, like maybe through inexperience or ignorance, for lack of a better word, do you sometimes see like, oh, that's actually an interesting way they approach that I wouldn't have, like a weird fingering or anything, or?
I don't see it that often. I think one thing I do get from it though is the variety of genres. Like, and I'm pretty well versed in a lot of different genres with guitar, but I don't listen to Ariana Grande or there's nothing wrong with her, but I wouldn't naturally be even listening through her song beginning to end. So there's certain things that I kind of learned from different genres when people come in, whether it's that or it's like a lot of the old rock stuff I love. So it's not anything new to me, but yeah, I mean, pretty much I see a lot of people come in and they want to bend with one finger, but I wouldn't say that's a good thing because it makes it so much harder for them to get it. They're like, I don't know why I can't bend. And I'm like, okay, add like your pinky or depending on what you're doing, certain things you can get away with, but like a full bend. I'm like, so, I mean, I see people do some weird things, but, and it is interesting that they do that, but mostly I learn from genres of music.
Right. That's funny you mentioned that because I have not played much in recent years, but I've played guitar on and off for a long time, and I bend with one finger, and it's totally I'll look at music and not that I could play half the stuff anyway, but say something with a crazy vibrato and bass like John Sykes, and I'll listen. I'll look at the bends like, nope, can't play that. Like I can't do a 2.5 step bend on,
Well, that's the thing. Like a lot of times I run it. It's not like a little half bend. Like, and sometimes you can bend with one finger. It just depends on what you're doing. But like 9 times out of 10, the people that are actually playing music, they're bending. Like if you look at live videos, they're bending with more than one finger.
Right.
And there was a song I want to say a couple weeks ago. It was a country song. Another example where I haven't heard of the artist or anything, but there was a 1.5 step bend, and it was just like a crazy bend, and he was like going at it with one finger. I'm like, no, you gotta add something, because it's just, I think it's just a lot of. It doesn't sound comfortable either. You can hear that it's just a little bit under the note.
I've talked to
this
is interesting. Talking about weird vibratos. There's a guy named Martin Anderson. I did a video with a couple months ago. A bass player. Been with a bunch of acts, but he played with Lynch Mob for a while. And I was asking him about, because I've seen George Lynch, a lot of times you think he's banging a note, but he's actually sliding up and down, almost like a fretless bass player would, instead of bending the string. And he was like, I know exactly what you're talking about. He does it all the time. But it's interesting. Yeah, just a weird idiosyncrasy. And do you think your surroundings affect the type of songs you write? Like, now you live in New York, right?
I'm in Rochester, New York.
Okay, yeah. So, like, if you'd grown up on an island in the Caribbean, do you think that would have affected your outlook on life and your music in general, or?
Yeah, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like weather does affect your mood. And I live in Rochester, so like the winters get really cold and there's like nothing to do.
Right.
So sure that played a role in me. But even in the summers, by the time I got into it, in the summers I was inside all day playing. But yeah, I mean, I guess it probably does. Because if you're on like a tropical island, genre-wise too, you probably pick up things subconsciously from different styles that you wouldn't hear in Rochester, New York.
That's probably why that's probably there's not a whole lot of death metal bands from like St. Martin.
Right. Yeah.
I saw you in a recent interview, and you mentioned that addition you normally play Les Pauls. I should point out to the audience that you have a Flying V now. Does that help that you come up with any new ideas just playing a different instrument? Like if you're so used to playing one body style even, I mean, did just picking up a new guitar kind of spark some new riffs or ideas for you?
Not necessarily. I mean, it doesn't for me, but the only thing I would say is like the Flying V I can't sit down with. So if I am writing, it's usually on another guitar first and then transferred over to the Flying V. But if I'm just like soloing or doing improv and stuff, it's different. I mean, what's nice about it is it's not so heavy.
Oh, yeah.
For me. Because when it's really heavy, you feel like you have to like hold your guitar while you're playing it.
Yeah.
And the V is nice and light. It's a nice break for me. So a lot of times when I am soloing and I'm standing, I usually use that anyhow. But I haven't noticed anything yet. It's still pretty new. I mean, it's only like a year old.
Does it have a pretty similar neck feel? Because I've owned a Les Paul before, but I've never had a Flying V.
Yeah, it's just, it's lighter. It's just a little bit, every guitar is kind of unique to itself, but I haven't noticed anything really big besides maybe the weight. And when I play it, I can actually like lift it up and not feel like I'm lifting weights.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I like it. I think it's a cool guitar. I felt like a natural.
Yeah. It's something I saw recently that blew my mind, and it seems obvious. And I don't know the truth behind this, but I saw a post recently online that said the Flying V, when they came out with that, the original intention of that design was here's the V, and you're supposed to put your arm between the two V forks and play it like that.
Oh.
And that was the part of the reason for the design. They showed a picture of somebody playing that, and that stunned me. I was like, how's that never occurred to me? Like, it seems obvious, but nobody plays it like that.
No, I never knew that either.
Yeah, and I don't know if they were making that up, but I was like, I'll be darned. You played with some major musicians you've shared bills with. Has being around these big time artists, has it taught you anything that you've been able to witness from them, either just stagecraft or have they shared any of their insights with you or anything?
It depends on the show. Like sometimes when I had opened, I didn't get to hang out all that much, but a lot of times they were very cool and very friendly. But I learned more about like production, behind the scenes, getting ready for a show type of thing. Like when it's your own show, you have like freedom to you don't have like this pressure. There's a little bit more pressure with it, but it's nice. It's a nice pressure. I like it personally. But it's a professional. I think that I've always been professional, but it's a different level. Like when you open for artists like that, it's you just feel like you're more professional. I don't know how to explain it, but everything's more upscale, and it depends on the show. But most of the time when I opened for someone big, it was like a big place, a lot of people. The sound was amazing. So it depends on the show, but a lot of that stuff I noticed a huge difference in, because I was like, whoa, like I wasn't used to any of that until I started opening for some national bands.
This is off topic, but was there ever? Do you remember the first time you got in front of a really huge audience? And did it ever hit you like, oh man, I'm like kind of a stage fright type thing?
Not a stage fright, but it was like this, like holy crap, this is awesome. Like. That was Hailstorm. When I opened for Hailstorm, it was outside, and it was just a huge crowd. It was a perfect day, perfect weather. Everything was awesome that show. Also, I would say when I got this isn't really my show per se, but when I got on stage with Green Day, this is way, way before anything. I was pulled up on stage to play guitar. He kind of does that.
I read that, yeah.
That's when I was like, I wasn't so much nervous, but it was definitely one of those feelings like, is this happening? It was like, whoa, there's so many people, like Billy was talking to me, and I'm like, what?
I meant to ask you about that. I read that in your bio. How did he pull you? Was that really just random? He just pulled you out and said, play it?
It was. I mean, it's funny because the first time I ever wanted to play guitar was at a Green Day show. Yeah. I turned to my mom and I was like, I want to learn how to play guitar. And she's like, oh, okay, let's keep watching the show. And not that she didn't think I could, but I was like, no, Mom, I don't think you understand. I want to learn how to play. She's like,
she didn't know if you changed your mind in 2 days.
Yeah, I mean, I was 14, so. But then he pulled someone up, and then I was like, really? Like, no, next time I'm at their show, I'm going to be the one up there. My mom's like, okay. 4 years later, I had been playing guitar probably a year. And she was like, you really should make a sign, because he pulls up all these people and just say, like, pick a girl, because that tour he had picked all guys up until then. She's like, and maybe that will give you a little bit of an edge. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, well, I don't think I'm gonna get pulled up, but okay, because she went with me to that one too. And so last minute, I heard the song, I think Jesus of Suburbia, I was like, all right, let me just learn it really fast. I doubt I'm going to get pulled up. So I kind of learned it like on the way there.
Wow.
And yeah, I was just kind of like, all right, it's not going to happen, but just in case. And yeah, and because I made that sign and I listened to my mom, he ended up pulling me up because it was just, I think I just stuck out because of what I said on it, but it wasn't planned at all. It was just kind of, I hope he picks me, and if he does, awesome.
That's got to be, it's pretty bold on the band's part because they don't know if they're going to get somebody up there who just can't play.
Yeah.
I guess they can always cut their feed or something, but because I recently, and I say recently, last year I saw Kip Winger in a solo show, and he pulled a guy out of the audience to sing with them on a duet. And he was kind of like, he's like, can you sing? And the guy's like, yeah. He's like, no, really, can you sing? And I think, I was thinking, that's brave, because there's a lot of people like, oh, yeah, I can sing, and they're just god-awful, I mean.
And I'm sure it's happened. I mean, I'm sure it's happened, too. It's just, but I think it's pretty cool because, it's for a young musician like myself, and being the first band that, like the first time I really wanted to play guitar was at that concert. So for me, it was like this weird coincidence that 4 years later, it really happened. I ended up on stage. So, but I mean, I think it's pretty cool. It's just kind of, it gives musicians, I don't know, a hope or whatever. I thought it was really neat. It was really cool. I woke up the next morning, I thought it was a dream, because I've had dreams like those where I'm on stage with bands that I like.
Yeah.
I know it's silly, but it feels so real. And I looked at my mom. I'm like, was that real? She's like, yes. I was like, oh, yes. I'm so happy.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I guess that kind of helped your avoiding issues of stage fright if your very first time is in front of thousands.
It's funny. I get more stage fright when there's less people. If there's a show where I know everybody there, personally, I find it a lot harder.
Yeah.
Rather play in front of a lot of people.
That's interesting. I mean, talk about Green Day, and I don't want this to come out sounding wrong, but some of your songs have a punk influence. I was thinking of the song "Checking Out," but you're admittedly more technically accomplished than most punk guitar players. I mean, you've got a pretty fluid tapping technique and things like that. Is that a conscious decision to blend styles, or is it just the way you play? And I
think the way I play. I listen to a lot of stuff growing up. I obviously listened to a lot of, I listened to Green Day, oh my gosh, everything. Nirvana, a big grunge scene, all of that. My dad got me into a lot of Led Zeppelin, Joan Jett, the Runaways. My mom was into those. So there's just so many influence. I mean, I'm a big Fiona Apple fan. I'm just kind of all that. And then when I started guitar, I went through jazz music, a little bit of classical, and I just got into a lot of different stuff. So I think what happened one that was kind of just different compared to the straight rock stuff.
Right.
I just think that what happened naturally just kind of came together.
Sure.
I wasn't really thinking about it, and then now it's funny. I listen to songs I recorded after the fact, and then I hear the influences. But when I'm in the midst of it, I'm not.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good thing. I mean, if you listen to a lot of different styles, it's a good thing to be, okay, you're writing a straight rock song, but maybe a chord you've always liked is when you were learning part of an Andre Segovia piece, and you have that chord in there. That's a cool way to meld influences and not be just root fifth power chords everywhere.
Yeah, it's funny. My first song I ever wrote, everybody was like, well, did your guitar teacher help you write this? Because you're using a lot of jazz chords. I'm like, no. I had gone through so many jazz. At that time, it was really heavy into the jazz stuff. I was doing it constantly. And I just was like, no, I think it just kind of worked out in that way.
Yeah.
The only thing I run into is sometimes I write songs where I'm like, whoa, that is really jazzy or really in one direction, where I'm like, I don't know if that's going to work. But other than that, it's kind of a good thing, I think.
You think you're saying you don't think it'll work? You don't think it'll work in the context of one of your EPs? Yeah. Fitting with the rest of the catalog?
I do like the idea of songs sounding different from each other. I think they should have their own unique story and their own unique sound. But, sometimes it's an extreme. I'll write something where it's really extreme. I'm like, well, maybe this isn't, I guess I probably overthink. I'm sure it'd be fine. But, sometimes it's so different, like there's not any really rock influence in it.
Well, keep in mind, I mean, Van Halen had Hang 'em High and Big Bad Bill on the same album.
Yeah.
I mean,
the song Deep Waters I did, that was like way heavy influenced by like, Billy Joel, like them. So, I mean, when I wrote that, I was like, whoa, but, I went with it and it seemed to work out.
Yeah, I think it's a great song. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Talk about if you had one of your favorite songs and you got to meet the artist behind it, like just pick up one of your favorite artists. What would you ask them if you could ask them one thing? And who would that be?
It would be Kurt Cobain.
Okay.
In spirit. And I've already done so much research on how he wrote it, but I would probably ask him, like, when he writes songs in general, like that one, does he hear everything at once? Mm-hmm. Like, does he hear the drums? Does he hear all of that? Or does he just hear the melody and then write chords around it? Or just hear the riff or whatever to start? Because he was just such a melodic genius.
Yeah.
I think that, I just would think it was, for me, I'm interested in if he heard like the whole song, or by the time drummer and the bass came in, that's when it really kind of all came together.
That would be curious because, and you also have to put it in context of the time. Like, I can't picture somebody telling Dave Grohl, here's the drum part I want you to play. But at that time, he wasn't Dave Grohl. He was a 22-year-old kid in a band with buddies. So maybe they were like, hey, maybe Kurt was like, I want you to hit the low toms here or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm curious, just because I know how I write, and I hear, like I said, I hear all the drum parts almost on every single song. I really can't think of a song where I didn't hear the way the song was going to lay out. And so for me, it's like a control freak thing, because if I hear it a certain way in my head, it is different to someone else. Like it bothers me because I hear everything so together.
Interesting.
And I'm curious if he didn't, or if he did that way, or if it was just straight melody, straight riff.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that would be pretty fascinating. You're probably not going to get to ask him that question, though. I'm afraid.
No, I won't.
Yeah, but
that's so funny.
That's interesting. What's that?
I met a friend yesterday, and I was like, because I was looking at a bunch of Kurt Cobain, like Nirvana stuff, and I was like, I'm so sad that he's not alive. They're like, he's been dead for like 20-something years. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I'm still upset about it. It's like, I really love him.
I'm getting off topic here. What's kind of funny is when Nevermind came out and the first Pearl Jam album 10 came out, I was in Germany and I was in the Army, and so I thought that Pearl Jam album and the Nirvana were fantastic albums. So I didn't have radio. I was in the Army, so I didn't have a bunch of free time to do stuff, and I wasn't back in the States for a couple years. I literally had no idea that Pearl Jam and Nirvana were that huge. I just thought it was
cool.
I thought it was these cool bands that some of my buddies had discovered, and we all liked these albums a lot. And when I got back to America and heard all over the radio, I was kind of disappointed. I was kind of like, oh, it's not the cool band I discovered. It's total mainstream. But
that's so funny though. Like that shows you like how big they were. Like they literally just took over the world at the same time, and it was so. Like I said, I was a baby when that happened, but I don't know. I guess I've always really, really liked Nirvana. But I know what you mean, because like when I started listening to My Chemical Romance, it was like before any of their big stuff at all. And if anything, I'm not a big fan of their later stuff. But then everybody like made fun of me in school. They thought it was really weird because they were all goth and whatever. Pictures on my books, and then like everybody was like, oh wait, I like that band, and I was like, I discovered them. Like everybody started getting into them, and I almost got like, you almost get like possessive. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah, you're not a real fan. Yeah, that's funny. So speaking of which, talk about the later stuff. Do you have anything planned in the works? What do you have? What's next for Melia?
I'm going to be doing my first home show in a really long time. So I'll be at the House Guitars, which is basically like the greatest store ever here for guitars. Like if you ever come to Rochester or have ever been, that's the place to go. It's just like it goes way back. And they've actually helped me out from like the beginning. So, but I'm playing there, and it's actually going to be, it's a store, but they have a stage outside. So I'm going to play there for my show on July 21st at 6. And then after that, I'll be in New York City at the Bitter End. Mm-hmm. And I'll be there August 2nd at 7. And then after that, I'm going to New Bedford and I'm opening for the Judas Priestess. So it's like the all-female version of Judas Priest.
No, I didn't know about them. I'm aware of the Iron Maidens, but I didn't know about Judas Priestess.
It's the same idea.
Yeah. Huh. That's interesting. I'll have to check them out. That's pretty cool. Well, cool. Sounds like you got some gigs coming up, so we'll definitely be checking out, and I'm going to put it on my site. But why don't you tell everybody your web address or what the easiest place to get a hold of your music and stuff?
Yeah, MeliaRocks.com is where you can that's my main website, but you can find me on Melia Rocks for Instagram, Twitter, Melia Maccarone, YouTube, Melia's Music, and Facebook, Melia Rocks. So, but yeah, definitely check it out. I've also got some stuff for sale just to help with tour and merchandise and stuff. And I make jewelry out of my guitar strings.
Ah.
Yeah. And so when I'm used ones, so when I change them, I end up making jewelry and stuff just to help. Anything really helps. Musicians really need it. So if it's not just to me, support your bands. And
people don't. I don't think they realize that it's so hard for up and coming musicians and even established ones. I mean, people. The internet lets everybody get discovered, but exposure doesn't pay you. And
no.
People make the joke now oh, I had 1 million views on streams on Spotify. Great, you made $8. It's one of those things, but so I just always like to urge people, if you hear the music, you like it, at least buy it on iTunes or buy the music,
Buy the music, I agree. I think it's just the way that the industry is now, and everybody's kind of adjusting to it, but that's why I try to find creative ways to, find something cool and make money just so I can fund going to shows and playing further out than I'm used to more.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, good. It's been interesting, and I've enjoyed hearing your answers and stuff, and I'll be looking forward to new music. And if you ever make it down to Tennessee, I'll keep an eye on the live dates. We'll be sure to come see you.
Yeah. I want to get back to Nashville.
Yeah.
So hopefully there soon.
Nashville's a great town. Well, cool. I appreciate it. Thanks again, Melia.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Now I'm trying to end the QuickTime recording.